Today, this nerd is going to hook up some of his radios that have been offline for quite a long time. So grab a chair, grab some popcorn, and let's go through this, one step at a time. Let me bring you up to speed as to where we are right now. All these radios have been offline for quite a while. And the background to all this is, if you haven't been following this channel, I was diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago. And about 2 years ago this week, I went in for surgery, and we found out that not only was it stage 3, but yeah, it was stage 4. So we had that going for us. On top of that, we decided that we were going to start construction in the basement of our house like 2 months after that happened. So what you're looking at right now is a product of that construction. This wall here, it never existed. This is a brand new room to me. So all of these scanners were living someplace else. Most of them were actually in boxes and in storage because I can only use a couple at a time. So fast forward to where we are today, about 2 years later, or 22 months if you want to be really scientific and exact here. What I did is I hung these adjustable shelves on the wall. Is this what I wanted to do? No, this is not what I had envisioned in my mind for this part of my radio room or my shack, right? I was expecting something to be more in a bookcase, something to be a little bit more presentable, something with face plates on it, right? But what I'm realizing is you can do this right. You can do it the way that you've envisioned it, or you can do it so that it gets done. And that's what we're going to be working on today. This isn't going to be the best way to do things. This is going to be the way that I need to do them right now so I can get these radios up and online today. So are we going to be cutting corners? Probably. Are we going to be doing things by the book? Absolutely not. Are we going to be doing things as I like to preach? No. This is going to be basically, look, it's okay, right? This is me saying to you guys, if you're not going to do it the right way, in the proper way, it doesn't make it wrong not to do it that way. All right? That's what part of this hobby is all about. Part of the hobby is getting it on, getting it going, and then coming back later on to make some tweaks to the design to fill your needs. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to just get some of these up, we're going to get them running, and then we'll come back in future videos to kind of make some corrections and some tweaks to those. All right, so let's look at things over here. This bottom shelf is primarily what I am concentrating on today. These 4 radios here used to run a couple of live feeds for me. Now, one of these live feeds no longer exists because they went encrypted. Okay. One of these radios is now a little obsolete because when I turned everything off, they were on a Type 2 system. Now they're on a P25 system. So we may or may not be able to use that radio because of simulcast. The radio up here, the SDS, which is probably off frame a little bit, we're going to bring that one online, maybe. So primarily what's going to happen is we're going to get these 4 radios on juice, right? We're going to power them up one way or another. Then what we're going to do is we're going to route the audio into a computer, okay? When we're also going to plug it into the computer, we're also going to get a data connection hooked up there too, so we can actually control, program, and see what the radios are doing from software. And finally, we also need to hook up an antenna. Now, that's where some of this fudge factoring is going to come into play here, because again, this nerd has been telling you guys LMR 400. Well, I got some surprises for you today. Let's just go that route. So everything that I'm going to need today is pretty much laid out here on my desk. And again, we'll probably be crawling over this stuff as we try to make room for things. But I've got some Coax, I've got some DC power, or AC power strips rather. We have a bracket which we're going to throw across the room in a few minutes. And we've got some BNC crimp connectors. We've got some leads here to try and get things moved around. Up on top here at a frame, we've got some jumpers and some other stuff too. We also have some sound card adapters and whatnot. So again, we'll explain all this as we go through. And anything that I talk about today, as far as hooking up to my radios, we'll put a link to that item in the description below so that you can also take a look at it and maybe purchase it for your shack. All right, so before we do anything, I want to get one of these pet peeves out of my way here. I can't stand these brackets. These things annoy me. I don't understand how manufacturers can cut corners and say this is now your tabletop base. I can't stand this. To me, it's flimsy, it's cutting corners, and it's no bueno. I don't like this. So again, this is gone. But in its place, we're going to use these. These are little rubber feet that I picked up off of Amazon. And let me show you the difference here. But this radio here, you see how it spins freely? I mean, you need something here on the feet or on the base of this radio in order for it to actually stay in place. Just so you can get a comparison to it, this radio over here, I've already put 4 rubber feet on the bottom of that. So if I pull this one away from the wall, and again, it's dirty, it's dusty, this is just the way life is, but you can see that I added the rubber feet right to the bottom of this. So let's go ahead and put these feet on the other 3 scanners that we're going to be hooking up today. All right, let's get this one out. Again, never mind the dust. This is just getting it right, not getting it perfect. And we're just going to simply just take one of these off. Pretty simple. They just stick on. And we'll put them into the 4 corners of the radio. Doesn't need to be exact. Doesn't need to be perfect. But I like to put it as far out to the corners as I can. This way they're stable. And now when I flip the radio over, it's not going anywhere. Let's do another one. So again, I got the next radio here, right? Let's go ahead and put 4 more feet on. 1, 2. And what's great about this, 3, 4, is now we can take a couple of these radios and we can stack them and they're not going to move on each other, right? But again, we do have one problem, and that is that these bottom-facing speakers are now kind of blocked, right? We can see that there's not much room in here, and when we do run the audio, there's going to be a problem. But that's okay, because we're going to actually route the audio out of these and into a external device, so we can listen to these on the computer or through larger speakers. All right, we got one more to do, so let's just pretend that we watched me do that one. All right, so now we've got our 4 scanners, and of course the shelf moves, but you know, the scanners don't. So I can kind of live with that. Again, just to compare, right? Here's the new one we just put in. It doesn't move. The one on the top, right? So we'll eventually go through and, you know, do the rest. But again, this is what I love, right? This has the kickstand underneath. Why could they not have kept the kickstand? I don't know, but I guess cost savings. All right, the next thing we have to worry about too is bringing power up to these radios. And there's several different ways that we can do that. So there's the right way, the way that I would do this if it was, you know, the best way I wanted to do it, which is what was kind of slowing me down from doing this all along. And then there's the just get it done way, right? We're going to do, again, the get it done way. But so you can see where my mind is at, let me show you if I were to do this right, or if I were to do this the way that I want to do it, what it looks like. Come here, follow me. All right, so in this cabinet, we have a 12-volt power supply, all right? So this one down here is a 35 amp power supply. That is more than plenty of power for what we're going to be doing here. So I may opt to replace this with a 20 amp power supply. Also on top here too, we've got a bunch of DC power blocks and terminal blocks and even some splitters and coax cables. So we're going to come back to this box in a little bit because there's something here that we need. But to get this up and running the way I wanted it to, we were going to use this. Not today, folks. So how are we going to bring power up to all of these radios? Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, it first starts with having to get down behind this corner over here, which is a real pain in the neck, and I'm really not looking forward to doing it, but we have to run some sort of, you know, AC up here. So in order to do that, I've got two options, right? I've got one of these little pancake devices, so we'll unbox this. And I also have a traditional, you know, straight power strip here, okay? So maybe we'll use these, maybe we'll use this. Maybe I'll run both because I'll put one behind the monitor so I have it. And, you know, that's what I'm going to do, I guess. So let me get a little demo going here so you can see what I'm planning out, just in case we can't get the camera back here in a few minutes after I get everything wired up. Power bricks. I hate these things. I really do. They're clunky, they're bulky, they take up a lot of room, right? But they're a necessity because they take our 120 volts that we have here in the US and they convert them down to 12 volts DC. Now, the one thing we want to look at here is basically the voltage, right? We want to know the pin connector, and we also want to know how many milliamps this is going to give us. Now, this one here is 750 milliamps, right? This one here is a little bit smaller, still 12 volts, but it is, oh, I lied. This one's a 6 volt one. We can't use this one for what we're looking at doing. See, it's a good thing we read this one. Plus, the pin is wrong. All right, but we're going to get the point here, right? This is the size of standard brick. Here's another one. This one here is 12 volts. It's 500 milliamps, okay? So just for the fun of it, it's the same size, right? This is the point we're trying to prove here. So if I open up this strip here, and of course my fingers do not work at all. Everything here is just a struggle. This nerd needs a knife on him badly. Here's what's going to end up happening. We've got a power strip here, and I know that the lights bounce off it the right way, but here's what's going to happen, right? So we have our one plug, right? We plug that in, all the way in. Now, besides there being a lot of dust on here, what happens? Can you see? You can't see what happens. Now you can see what happens. This one here, this one is now blocked, right? So what ended up happening is, well, let's put the big fat boy on here, right? Yeah, we can put one right next to it, but we've lost one, right? And then we're going to lose the next one, and then this one's going to be tight. So we can only put 3 in here. That's a problem. This is just not a grand solution. So what I was also thinking is, we'll get something like this. Now, of course, now I definitely need my knife. Let's open this thing up before we slice ourselves open here. That was close. Again, Amazon special. This one says that there's a surge suppressor in it, but I can already tell we're going to have a problem here. So again, right, we're going to take the big boy here and we're going to plug it in, and what happens, right? We've already blocked this one, and we might have also blocked the ones on top too, because let's just say we try to put another big one in. All right, we've got it. It'll fit, but it won't fit next to it. Okay, we've got a problem. But we can go to the side. All right, we've got some room over on the side here. So we're starting to kind of, you know, work around issues. But again, I don't really like, you know, doing something like this, because these they're transformers, right? They may get warm, and especially when you put them close to each other. So here's what I'm also thinking here. We're going to use these. These are small little extension cords, basically. If I can, again, get it open. What happened to my knife? Where'd it go? I'm sure I'll find it when I stab myself. Here it is. And I love these things. These are great. So all it really is a couple inches long, right? Plugs into the one side and it gives you a little extension, right? So let's plug this in. Plug it into here. What happens? Now it moves out of the way and you have room for the next one, okay? And we plug the next one in, and what happens, right? We've got room. We could start adding our wall warts. Boom. Boom. Now we've got some more room for everything, Okay, pretty easy. I like these. I use them a lot just to kind of, get things out of the way. But wait, there's more. All right, I have another idea. Something I haven't done yet for my scanner radio hobby. This will be a first for me. But I picked up this. What's in the box, man? What's in the box? Let me know if you get the reference. This is something that I've been using with CCTV. This is basically a power supply, right? 120 volts to 12. Is that what this one says? If they give me the right one. Well, it's in a foreign language. But yes, it is 12 volts, 5 amps, okay, on the output. We have to remember it's a 5 amp output for this one. So if each one of these scanners here draws at most half an amp, right, 500 milliamps, then we know we can really put max of 10 on here, if my math is right. But maybe some of these take a full amp. Let's just say they take an amp. If I have a 5 amp power supply here, I don't want to put 5 scanners on here because I'm going to really be at the limit of this device. You want to stay under that. So for what we're doing today, running 4 scanner radios on the 5 amp supply is okay. Now, again, the one end plugs into the wall. And again, it's a standard 2-prong, right? So we're not going to type a lot of room. But the magic really happens on this end with, there you go, with the pin, right? With the little barrel connector. So if I take a radio out, so now I can't get them off my shelf because I put the little sticky thing on here. But if we take the back of our radio, right? Boom, it plugs in, right? There's a little bit of a gap, but hey, for what we're doing today, this is all fine and dandy. But what's really cool is that it comes with this, a little squid device. What's this squid device do? I'm glad you asked. This will take this one output here. All right, here's the female side because that's just the way we are. And it splits it into multiple outputs. Is this the right way to do it? Absolutely not. But this is the way we're going to do things today. So now, look at this. I even have screws on the ground. I'm so excited, man. We can now plug the little squid into the output of our power supply. And now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 outputs. Yeah. Okay. If these are half an amp each, we can use all 8. But again, we don't really have much room here. So we're going to have to be fairly close. So if we're going to stack a bunch of radios up, maybe we can get away with it. Am I going to be able to do all 4 radios? No, this is just too small, too short. So while in theory this might have been a good idea, I think that we can only do 4 radios if they're in close proximity. So maybe I have to pick up another one of these in order to do 8, right? Because they got to be fairly close to each other. I'm going to say, on my shelf, stacked one on top of the other, it's just not going to be there. What's the distance? Probably 8 inches on this, I would say. I don't know. All right, so we have some solutions now for power. So what I'm going to do is I am going to get very frustrated. I'm going to crawl behind here. We're going to cut because if I don't, all you're going to see is my ass in the camera. So we'll get behind here. We'll plug in the 2 power strips. So we have both options up here. And yeah, we are going to take it from there. So let's just cut and we'll come back in a second. All right, just so you get an idea of what we are up against behind these monitors right here. This is where I have to reach to get to my outlet. Let's take a look. No, we're going the wrong way. You go this way. I go this way. Here we go. Back behind the wall. Right over there. You can kind of see where the outlets are. So, yeah, what makes it worse is that this desk over here actually has a wall. So you can't just reach back there. It's all the way down, there. So we gotta reach our arm all the way back there, in order to get there. I'm not looking forward to this, but let's just get it done. All right, so we now have power to this, and it's going to stink if this falls behind here. So we're going to have to put some Velcro or something to keep this from falling. So we'll have to just get to that when we get to that. So for now, I think we're just going to put it behind the radios because, you know, why not? You know, yeah, because why not? It's what it's going to power up anyway. So let's just get it up here. And yeah, now out of sight, out of mind. All right, we've got power. Let's go ahead and we got power to here. Let's go ahead and put some power to the radio. So let's do a let's just do a 50-50. Let's just see what works and what doesn't. So where is our little squid device that we got? What do we got? Got it. All right. I think what we're going to do is we are going to put this squid over on these 4 radios over here. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I have a TRX2 over here, which requires a brick anyway. And this over here, these 2 over here are GRE radios, which require different plugs. So I think it's safe that we could say we can keep all of our standard plugs on this side of the house. Now, again, in order to do that, I have to kind of fish this between 2 shelves. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to disconnect this fancy stuff here, and we will just drop it behind the shelves here. Nothing fancy here. Oh, and this is a nice one, too, with the feet on it. So, beautiful. All right, is this going to work? Is this going to do its thing? Oh, it's going to be so tight. I don't like these radios either, so we're probably going to be swapping these out anyway at some point. But at least we'll have some power up here, and it'll be good to go. So, you know what? Let me grab one off on the side. Number 1. And if this doesn't work, then, you know, it's good to know, right? That we tried something different. And that's the beauty of the hobby, right? You try something, you find out if it works, you find out if it doesn't work, and then you go on from there. And I am already not liking this as a solution. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't like it because I can't pull a radio off the shelf without disconnecting it from the power. There is not enough room to actually get around this and do this. So this is a failure. And this is the great thing about the hobby, right? It's fine that I failed, and it's even better that I failed on video because it proves a point here that, yeah, I tried something a little bit different. It didn't exactly work out the way I wanted it to, but it's okay, right? It's all good, man. It's all good, man. All right, so we're just going to just let this stuff be. Let me get a couple of DC power bricks for these. I have them somewhere, and we'll keep wiring things up. All right, so we're going to straddle these all up with their little extensions. So we got 1, 2, 3. This one is also 12 volts. All right, we got 3 to start. That'll be... No, this one's got the wrong plug on it. This is why I use power supplies. Oh, boy. So this nerd really did it to himself. Remember I showed you the power supply that's down here in the shelf right here? This is what I've been using for years. And because it's what I use for years, I don't take the power supplies out of the boxes when I get new radios. So I don't have the power supplies to hook any of this stuff up with. We're going to hook up 2 radios apparently instead of 4. And we're going to take it from there. So, yeah, I think we're... let's just get back to it. All right, so let's go ahead and do some fishing, and we have our new power brick. We're going to run a room back here real fast. So typically what I'd be looking at doing is just plugging in the long cable right into here, and now we've got some power. But we're going to run out of room behind these radios rather quickly with this setup. Because you know, you can see that we're running out of room here. I'm going to bite the bullet on this, and we're just going to run it like this. Oh, even that's a pain in the neck. And then we're going to run this over here. I should understand this so that, you know, and it's always smart, right, to have the power on when you do all this stuff. So let's go ahead and turn that off. Right. And then what radios do I want to bring on? I want to bring on the 996T. So we'll power that with this one. Okay. And then whatever was here, we'll power up with that. So let me just push that up against the wall. Of course, there's a gap now. Jeez Louise. Is this not, why does this not go all the way in? Look at that. If I go around, no, because it's, try this one. Oh, there's a, okay, so now we got rid of the gap. All right, let's spin this right round so that we can push this up against the wall further. And then we got this here, and we will plug this in, and then we'll just hide our sins behind the radios like that. Get the connector off. So now I got this radio and this radio hooked up, and we reach back here, we hit the magic switch, which I can't find now because I think I turned it around. Oh boy. There we go. And after nearly 20 months, 22 months without any power, we're up and running again. Well, we have juice. Remember, folks, it's just get it up, not get it right. I'm already exhausted. This nerd needs a break. All right, so now that we've got our radios powered up, we now need to bring an antenna to them. This is where you always hear me say LMR 400 is the best of the best, right? LMR 400 is low loss cable. Well, guys and gals, you know what this is? Does that look like LMR 400 to you? No. This is what we call RG6. This is going to be good enough to get it going. Okay, that's the way we look at it. This is what is going to be good enough to get it going. It's probably about 25 feet or so here. I don't remember what I bought, but I have actually RG6 in here in this office that goes all the way around the basement to where my antennas come in from. And I also have LMR 400 that I ran, but the thing is I didn't put the connectors on it yet. So again, we're just going to get it up. We're just going to get it working. And we're going to come back later on and we're going to actually make it right. So RG6 for now is the easiest way to get the juice from the berry. Right? Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and plug this in and run this and get it going. Again, what do I do with my knife? Get that cable off. All right, let's... I got a barrel connector on this end because I've got a BNC on some coax over there. We'll fish this behind the desk and then we'll come out over here. So let's go ahead and get that done. You just make believe you saw me do it. I'm going to do it. I'm just not going to take you with me. Okay. Cable's run, it's nice and twisted and it still has its memory on it, but hopefully over time that memory disappears. Before we get any further, we should probably test this coax just to make sure that it's hooked into something. So I am going to grab a BCD 160DN just because I know it's got batteries in it, because I've been playing around with it. We're going to power it on and we're going to make sure that it can receive something. Primarily, let's look for something we know is out there. So I'm just going to put NOAA weather radio in here. I'll take you along for the ride. Here we go. Hopefully you can see it. So can you? I don't know. Hold 162.55. Good. Now, what I like to do is go up and down the dial so that we can see what other NOAA stations we pick up. We got more than one. There we go. Right? So there's our NOAA. There's another one. There's another one. There's another one. So we know that this antenna is actually hooked up because we have multiple NOAA weather radio stations coming in, which tells me we've got a good antenna connection, which means we can go on now to the next part of this little journey. So let's talk about different ways to split antenna cables. Yeah, different ways to split antenna cables. So obviously the best way to do this is to bring it right into the back of the radio, okay? But then you can't use more than one radio on an antenna. Let's talk about ugly ways to do this, and then we'll talk about the right way to do this. Ugly ways to do this. Let me go up here, take you with me. So I got my box of parts and whatnots and doodads in here. We got a whole bunch of different connectors, BNC to N. We've got some lightning arresters, end-to-end barrels. We got some attenuators and multiple other wacky connectors here. F connector to BNC. I wonder what that was for. We're looking for these. All right, there's one. That's all we're going to need for today. But if we were going to hook up more than one radio, here's another one with another barrel on it. Here's another one. Okay, I'm going to annoy enough of the purists here. All right. Close that one up. Now we're going to go to this one here. Move this out of the way. Oh, look at that. I got a whole bag of them. And then I've got some. Look at how thin this jumper cable is. Let's do some heavier duty ones. Look how tiny these are. What was I thinking? These are horrible. This one at least has some girth to it, right? Look, I got a bag of them. I must have been doing something here, right? All right, we got our bags. We got our stuff. Let's move on to the next part here. So if you want to watch a nerd cringe, what you can do is you can take your T-connector here, and you could put it right in the end of your coax line. And now this end goes to either another pigtail or right to the back of your radio. And then you grab another extension, right? Another jumper, and you run that into here. And then this either goes to your next radio or it goes to another T connector. And then you can run this to another jumper. Where's another jumper? Right? So you see what we're doing here, right? In this example here, very messy, very dirty. We have a connection here for one radio. Follow the line here. Another radio. Follow the line here. Finally, a third radio. We could hook up 3 radios to one antenna with this ugly, ugly method. You know what? The goal was to hook up 4 radios. Why take shortcuts? Okay. Now you're making me open one up. All right. That was a twofer. Just so you understand, these are 3-foot RG59 jumpers. They're not even RG50, RG6. And typically I would use these for CCTV setups because they work really well going from my patch bays to the actual input on an analog camera system. But here we go now, just so you know I'm not lying. Here's the end, okay? We fish it. There's connection for one. I'm sorry, the second one. So here's the first one. Here's the second radio. Here's the third radio. There's the fourth radio, and this is our input from our antenna. Not the best way to do it. Let's look at another way. This guy here is a multi-coupler. This is the preferred way of doing things. So let's talk about multi-couplers for a second. What a multi-coupler does is it allows you to bring signal in from one antenna line, and then it splits it out to multiple antennas. In this example here, it goes out to 8 antennas in total. This is a active multi-coupler, and what that means is that there's a preamp inside of it that overcomes the losses between all these ports, because each one of these ports, there's a loss factor involved here. Why is there a loss factor? Well, because every time you split the signal, you have to divide the signal, so you have loss. But a multi-coupler is important because there's isolation between each and every single one of these ports. That isolation is important because you can imagine each one of these radios kind of talking to each other while they're scanning. And if one radio were to stop on a frequency, it could desensitize another one, or it could bleed out into the receiver of another one. It can create a whole other issue. Now, again, too, this other dirty cable here that we just built, this changes the impedance value, right, of the coax line. That can also change your reception. This device here will make sure that you still have 50 ohms and that all the radios are isolated from one another so that you can't hear one from the other. And it also has a preamplifier in it. Now, you can get these in 4 ports. You can also get these in passive multi-couplers. And what passive means is that there's no amplification, there's no preamp in here. So you're going to get the loss, and there's going to be no amplification or preamp to overcome that loss between the insertion. So yes, one like this, a active amplifier, an active preamp, an active multi-coupler is going to cost you a lot more. There's a lot more engineering in here. Whereas a passive splitter, there's no active elements in it. There's no power requirement. This requires 12 volts, by the way. It's cheaper. Now, can you use a coax splitter, right? Can you use a cable TV splitter? You could, but keep in mind you're going to get several dBs of loss. If it's a 2-port splitter, expect to get like 3 dB between the ports. A 4-way splitter, probably 6 to 8, maybe even 12, depending. It's really not a good solution. If you have the means to do it right, multi-coupler. If you have the means to do it quick and dirty, I don't know. How should we do it today? Well, I am going to say that because we don't have any more power bricks, we might just have to do it quick and dirty. However, I did buy this CCTV. Remember this? This? We're going to just run this without the squid on it. So we'll run this into our outlet strip that we just put on the wall over here. And then we'll run this directly into this. We'll run this into the 2 scanners we have set up right now. So let's just go ahead and start setting that up. All right, so let's grab our jumpers off of this ridiculous cable that we made here. So we're going to plug this into port. Why not just put it into port 1 and just make it nice and simple? And everything knows where it goes. No, let's not do it that way, because I want everything to be where it's supposed to be. It don't matter. It doesn't matter. All right, so now we've got this. We can get rid of our T connector here. You go over there. Let's plug this into here. Okay, that's there. Okay, and then we can get rid of this. What a mess. There we go. There's this. It goes over here. It goes over here. So this is our source coming in. That will go in the bottom here to the antenna. Again, this isn't get it right. This is just get it set up. So now we've got cables here. We got to our radios, right? A to B. This comes in, and we need juice. All right. I'm not going to be able to put my hand back here, am I? Actually, I can. I can lift this ever so slightly. Get this up here. Oh boy, this is a mistake. How do I want to do this? Maybe I'll just come in over the side. That's what I'll do. I'll just wire it in. So again, we're just going to plug this in here. Boom. That one is now on an antenna. And then number 2, this guy here is now in on an antenna. Okay, that goes there. That goes there. Remember, we're not getting it right. We're just getting it going. And then I need my voltages. So we'll plug this in on the top. By the way, these work in passive mode if there's no power on them. What did I do with the other doodad? Here it is. Okay, so this will now go here. Plug this in. Yeah, let me blow up a couple $100 multi-coupler if this doesn't work, right? Yeah, that's smart. And then I can't see what I'm doing anymore. Flashlight, flashlight, flashlight. Of course it's in upside down. Why would it go in the right way? It does not want to go in that slot. What is up with that slot on this thing? It does not want to go in. There we go. Okay, so green means good. We now have a mess of cables, which why wouldn't we? This is definitely a radio setup. Just move this over to the side. Here's a multi-coupler. Let's just tuck that over here. Sure, that works. And then we got this up here. Remember, folks, we can worry about cleaning this stuff up later. All right. We have reception. Look at that. It's a beaut, Clark. Well, this is a good sign. We actually have some audio coming through, and it sounds great. So we're going to just lower the volume here. All right. So where are we so far on the checklist? We now have an antenna hooked up to 2 radios instead of 4. We have power on 2 radios instead of 4. Now the next thing we need to do is, I think the next thing we have to do is bring audio from these 2 radios to the computer, because we're going to set these up as live feeds. We're going to start recording some archiving some audio, and we may decide to use this as, finding frequencies in the future as well. So how do we do that? Well, again, the easiest way to do that is to run the line out of these radios to the microphone connector or the sound card connector on our computer. Except for the fact that our radios are here and our computer's all the way down here. You can kind of see the top of it over here. And that's a run. And I can only really run, let's just say if we split it left and right, we can run 2 on 1 sound card. Again, that doesn't work for what we're trying to do here. So the next thing we're going to try to do is we can try to use these. These are great. This is a little $3, $4 USB sound card. And for what they are, they work really, really good. There's a line in and a line out port on the top of this thing. It is a USB 2 device. Like I said, they're like $5, maybe with the additional tariffs that are supposed to be coming through. Maybe they'll be $7. I don't know. But I have like 3 of them hooked up on a hub over here in the corner. And what I've noticed is that every once in a while, when the computer reboots, they get reassigned. So that doesn't work. What I mean by reassigned is they come up in different orders. So we're going to take this and just get rid of it. It's a good solution if you only have one. When you start adding more, it becomes problematic. So what are we going to do to fix this? We're going to use a USB sound device. It's up there out of frame, so let's go bring it down. This little guy here is a Focusrite Scarlett 8i6. Now, what this allows me to do is allows me to bring in multiple scanner radios on their own feed, on their own input. They never get reassigned, right? Everything stays the same. And what's the beauty of this is that when I use it with ProScan, is that we can address the left and the right, okay? So on the back, I've got some inputs here, right? I got 4 inputs. And what we have is a mono 1/4 inch adapter. You can see it. I don't know if you can see it. And then it goes to a mono 1/8 inch. And that's what goes into each scanner. So line outputs 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we got on the front. Yeah, this is the crazy part about this thing. So the front, you see the funny XLR connector in the front here? There you go, right? You can actually put a 1/4 inch jack into that XLR and it becomes an input. But I don't like that. I like everything to be in the back and hidden and out of the way. So we've got ports 3, 4 over here, and then 5 and 6 over here. So we can either wire these all up now, or we can just wire up the 2 we're going to use. Decisions. Well, I think whatever we're going to do, we're going to just put this device right here in the corner because I'm tired of moving things around, to be honest with you. Jeez Louise. The only good thing is, yeah, this does work on 12 volts, so I can run it to a power supply, but I actually have the Scarlett power supply. This one I know where it is. So let's get this up and running. Oh, the other thing we need is a USB connection, obviously. This has to get plugged in with USB-C. It could be USB-A, I think, on the other end, but this has to get plugged into the computer with USB. So not only do we need to plug this in the radio, plug these in the wall, but we got to plug it into the computer. So let's go ahead and get this all wired into. So remember, don't get it right, just get it running. These are our ports in the back, right? These are our 1/4 inch jacks we were just talking about. So this is 3 right here. Let's bring this over to one of these lines here. I don't even care which one it goes to because we can redo this later. You know what? We're just going to just take it really simple and easy. So on the back of the radio, we have an external speaker and we have a record jack. We're going to use the external speaker. If we use the record jack, we're going to get a second before it actually fires off, and we have to make sure that we program the radio to actually use it. The external speaker, I think, is I don't know if it's it's also controlled by the sound on the front, but it will mute the speaker. I don't like using the headphone jack. I think that it just lowers the volume too much. So now we've got this one hooked up, and then we'll come over to the other one over here. Man, we are making such a mess. That's how you know we're making progress, right, guys? And again, if we were doing this the right way, we'd be doing some dressing of the coax cables and the line cables and the DC cables, and we'd be running them the right way. But we can come back later and, again, just make it right. So we'll get it just up and running. So, okay, now we've got 2 plugged in here. We need power. All right, let's get the power hooked up to the front of this thing here. So many cables, so many cables. Okay, you know what? I'm not even going to fight with the stuff that's back here. I'm just going to go straight straight over here under the desk, fired up, powered up, right? It's just the easiest way right now to do it. And when I flip the switch, boom, it should fire up. Oh, yeah, I probably got to turn this thing on. I don't know why that's not lit. There we go. Look at that. We've got some input. This is doing its job. So let's go ahead and just park it. I think we'll just tuck some cables here. We'll move the radio out of the way. You know what? We'll get this ugly Jupitera out of here, which is all covered in dust. And we'll just slide this right there. Beautiful. That's where it's going to live right now. And you know what? I actually have an upgrade for this. So we're going to be actually taking this out, and we have another solution, even wire even more radios into this. All right, so now we've got the Focusrite plugged into 2 radios. We've got the Focusrite plugged into a USB hub, which is plugged into the computer. So if I clean up my mess over here, we should be able to look at this computer here and find out that if we have our sound card input. I think we'll just cross that bridge in a little bit. No, I think maybe we'll just look at it now really quick. We'll look at Device Manager and make sure that we see it. So now, I think we're almost done. Let's bring us up to speed here. We have 2 radios out of 4 plugged in and powered up. Again, not the way I want to do it, but it's there. We have 2 out of 4 radios plugged into a USB hub. We have 2 out of 4 radios with audio into a USB hub. We have 2 out of 4 radios on an antenna, and we now need to bring the data into the computer. How are we going to do that? Well, there's different ways we can do that. We can use a serial cable into the back of the computer using a serial adapter, sure. We could use a USB device, those little proprietary USB cables that Unity makes. I don't like those. I don't like having the cables on the front. Yeah, look at all the mess that I've created, and I don't like cables, okay? You understand? This is bothering me. This is not good, but we're going to work through it, guys. Up here, out of frame, just about, is our next secret weapon. This guy here is called an EdgePort. And what's really cool about this is that it's older than dirt, basically. But it's an 8-port serial port to USB adapter. Yes, you could do it easier now with having just 8 serial to USB adapters into a hub, calling it quits. And eventually I may get there when this thing ever bites the bullet. But for now, this is how everything is working on my end. So I've got 8 serial ports. I've got 8 Null modem cables. Null modem, female to female serial cables. Why Null modem? Because in the back of the scanner, that's the port you have to use. Back of the scanner? Yes, back of the scanner. So behind the scanner is the GPS port. So you would need a female cable to plug into the back of it. But because this is going to be a serial connection and not a GPS connection, we need to cross the pins so we can talk to the radio, which means we need Null modem cables. So we're going to run this cable to the back of that radio and one to the back of that radio, and we're going to run that to ports 1 and 2 on this, and then we'll plug this into our hub, and then we'll have our 2 radios plugged into our computer, and we can actually talk to the radios. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead and untangle this mess and get to it. Holy heck, what a mess. But here we go. This is the back of the device again. So we are going to take one of our Null modem cables and we're going to plug it into port 1. And because we don't want these coming out, we are just going to screw these down. Okay, there's one. And then we get the other one. And you know, if this nerd was smart, I would have kept everything standard. You know, the same radio would be port 1 on everything and port 2 on everything else. But again, we're just getting things up and running. We're not actually getting things done the right way here. We're just, you know, yeah, we're just making sure that we're getting things up and running. We'll come back eventually and fix this. Tell me it's plugged in. It is plugged into the hub. At least we got lucky on that. So we will plug this into here. Right? That's a big old fat boy, right? I haven't seen one of those in a while. Oh, the computer goes ding ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And we've got a light on the front of the board. Perfect. Which was port 1 and which was port 2? Son of a gun. This one is 1. So let's just put 1 over here. Again, we'll just put this up here and connect it. Oh, what a pain. What a pain. And then this guy will be here. Yep. Yep. We're going to fix this later. Ain't nobody got time for that today. Now, on the front of our digiboard, you can see we've got a flashing light, which means we got some good data. And then when I come over to my computer over here, we have ports. Here we go, EdgePort COM1 and COM2, or actually 11 and 12. So that's what we are going to be using. You still here? You still with us? You still hanging out? Okay, up to speed. 2 radios have power, 2 radios have antenna, 2 radios have audio, 2 radios now have data. What's next? We should be able to fire up ProScan on this computer over here and connect to this radio and send it out to the interwebs. So let's see what happens when we go ahead and do that. Up here in the corner, we've got a ProScan. And it looks like it's got nothing hooked up to it because, you know, we have things that are broken. So let's take a quick look here. I know you really can't see much. Let me zoom you in. All right. I know this isn't the right way to do it, but we have ProScan up and running here. Let's go ahead and we're going to go to options, make sure that things work. Yeah, we got here. Beautiful, baby. Go to scanner type. It's a 996 XT. Beautiful. The COM port we know is changed since the last time we used this. So this is going to be on COM 11. And we are going to set it. Look at that. I'm talking to my scanner. The scanner is on the computer. Great. Perfect. The next thing we got to do here is make sure we've got our audio. So I am going to go to audio control. Actually, we'll go to source client. Now we'll do recorder. Let's do that. And we are going to change this now to analog 3 and 4. That's where it's plugged into the back. And let's just go ahead and set this for weather mode. That's with a priority. It's not what I wanted. We can actually click here and do menu, which I love about it, menu. We can scroll down, right? And we can do weather operation, enter, weather scan, and we're controlling the radio. Hopefully you can see this. What I'm looking for is down at the bottom here, we have got some audio coming in, and I don't see any. So let me raise the right side and lower the left. And, oh, I have to raise the volume on the scanner. That would be smart, right? Yeah. Duh. All right, we got audio on the scanner. And if I do this side, there's nothing coming in. So now I know that it's the right side, the right channel. I got audio coming in. Let me raise the volume a little bit more. There we go. This is it. This is good. We got something. We've got some activity on our live feed again. Beautiful. So now what I can do is I can close out ProScan, which is important. Actually, if I do, if I close out ProScan, it's going to write this to memory, right? It's going to write it to the program. So now when I restart ProScan, I will be able to do that. All right. ProScan is running. Yeah, it's an old version of ProScan, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and update things. And we're going to go back to scan resume. And now we are now scanning. So this live feed, after a 22-month hiatus, should be up and running. There we are. Dunzo. We did it. Are you still with me? What would you do differently? Well, I know what I would do differently. I think I've explained that along the way, right? I would certainly have had this on a power supply. I'd clean up the cables a little bit better. Jeez. Yeah. But this is, again, just get it up and running, right? That's the hobby. I know it didn't work. I bought something I thought was going to be great. That squid thing, right? No, didn't work for me. But maybe it's going to work for you if your radios are closer together, right? But this is the hobby, right? We experiment. We try different things. We see what's going to work for us and what's not going to work. I got stuck in my head. That's what happened to me here, right? I knew what I wanted. I knew how I wanted to bring this up. Am I happy? Yes. I've got 2 radios now that I didn't have up and running months ago, right? When I tore what I had set up and took it off the air 22 months ago, I never thought it was going to take me this long. But you want to know what? Cancer, treatments, other issues, right? They all get in the way. Life gets in the way. The point is I got it back up and running. I'm no longer walking around with just handheld devices or, one radio on a different desk over there you can't see. I'm getting this setup back, right? We're getting it back. And as I start hooking up more stuff, hey, we'll take you along. I'll show you how I upgrade this stuff. But for now, we're good to go. Again, all of the information and all of the equipment that we use today, all the connectors, the doodads, the mistakes and everything along the way, everything we use to hook this all up, all those items are in the description below. If you want to order anything like that, we'd really appreciate it if you can use a link below. It really helps us out. For all my Patreon supporters that are along the way too, thank you so much for your support. Some of this stuff was purchased thanks to you and for your help. And again, if you found this video helpful, you found some mistakes, you found some things you want to do different, let me know. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Whatever you decide you want to do. But it lets me know that you like this kind of video. And this is a different kind of video that I've never put out before. This is kind of, me explaining things to you as I'm going through them. So you kind of you got to sit here in the room with me and go through my thought process as I was going through some stuff. And if you like this, we'll do more videos like this. I mean, I think that these are different. They're interesting. And I actually liked creating this one. So if you liked it, good. I liked it too. You want to see something different? Leave me a comment below in the description. And with that, hey, maybe we'll see something like this in the future. Maybe we won't. But in the meantime, make sure to subscribe because whatever we put out next, you'll get it right on notifications. Thanks again for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. And hey, I'm going to listen to a radio or two. That's all I hooked up. See you later.